The sun blazed over downtown Washington, D.C., bouncing off the mirrored glass of government buildings. The streets buzzed with the usual weekday chaos: hurried pedestrians, taxis honking, security personnel stationed at every corner. Yet, amid this routine, tension simmered in a quiet alley near a federal building. Inside, a black SUV parked haphazardly, FBI Director Marcus Halton sat, hands raised, heart pounding. Across from him, a masked gunman pressed the barrel of a handgun against the seat, voice low, cold, unyielding. "Stay calm, and no one gets hurt," the assailant whispered, though every word dripped with menace. The sound of footsteps approaching drew both men's attention. From a distance, Khalid Al-Rahman, Arab billionaire CEO of Aurex Global, moved with calculated speed. Navy suit impeccable, sunglasses shielding his eyes, he surveyed the situation with an almost surgical precision. Every detail, the alleyway layout, the vehicle positioning, the tension in the gunman's posture, was catalogued silently. Khalid didn't panic. He didn't shout. He didn't rush. Instead, he assessed. The gunman's hand trembled slightly, evidence of inexperience or nerves, and the SUV's engine idled erratically, adding tension to the moment. A nearby pedestrian noticed Khalid stepping closer, whispering into a sleek earpiece. "Situation under observation. Back up in position. Do not act recklessly." Khalid's eyes met Marcus Halton's, a silent understanding passing between them. The director's expression was a mix of fear and trust. Trust that someone of immense influence, someone with the authority and calmness to act, had arrived. The masked man tightened his grip on the gun. "I said don't move," he barked. His voice wavered slightly, betraying nerves he tried to conceal. Khalid's voice cut through the tension, calm but commanding. "Step away from the door. Lower the weapon. No one needs to be hurt today." The gunman's eyes flicked toward Khalid. Who are you?" "I'm someone who refuses to watch injustice unfold unchecked," Khalid said softly, but every word carried weight, authority, and quiet menace. "And you are about to make a choice, one that will define the rest of your life." Marcus swallowed hard, glancing at Khalid. The air was thick with anticipation, the distant city sounds fading under the pressure of the moment. Phones in nearby buildings and on the street began to record, capturing a standoff that seemed suspended in time. Khalid took another measured step forward. "Put the weapon down. No harm will come if you choose wisely." A bead of sweat slid down the gunman's temple. The weight of thousands of eyes, the potential witnesses online, in offices, in homes, pressed on him. Every second stretched into eternity. And for the first time, the world began to watch. The alley was tense, almost frozen in time. The masked gunman's finger hovered over the trigger, eyes darting nervously between the FBI director and Khalid Al-Rahman. Every pedestrian in sight had stopped, phones raised, capturing the unfolding standoff, the city unknowingly streaming a real-life thriller. Khalid's steps were deliberate, each one calculated to project calm authority without provoking the gunman. His navy suit was immaculate, sunglasses reflecting the bright city sun, but his presence radiated more than wealth. It radiated command, awareness, and moral certainty. He spoke softly but with precision. "You are holding a man against his will. You have a choice to make: continue down a path that destroys your life, or choose restraint. Courage is not found in a gun. It is found in doing what is right when it matters most." The gunman flinched, the weight of Khalid's words pressing on him. Every movement was being recorded, every hesitation noted by the crowd, every whispered comment on social media magnifying the moment. The world, unknowingly, was watching through the lens of thousands of devices. Marcus Halton's voice trembled. "Please, I don't want anyone hurt." Khalid's eyes softened as he glanced at the director. "You will not be harmed. Not today. But for that to happen, he must make the right decision." The masked man's grip on the gun tightened, knuckles white, sweat dripping from his forehead. The power dynamics were clear. He held a weapon, but Khalid held control over the moral and psychological battlefield. Every bystander could feel it. Every phone captured it. Khalid took another step forward, slower this time, keeping his hands visible, signaling no aggression. "Do you want this moment to define you? Or do you want to walk away, knowing you did not harm an innocent man? History is watching. Choose wisely." A distant siren announced approaching backup. But Khalid did not flinch. He remained focused, aware that his presence alone was a stabilizing force. He spoke again, his voice calm yet imbued with undeniable authority. "Put the weapon down. Do it for yourself. Do it for him. Do it for everyone who will see this moment, and remember that restraint is strength." The gunman's eyes wavered. The weight of consequence, now amplified by the invisible gaze of thousands online, pressed down on him. His confidence faltered, revealing fear and uncertainty. Marcus, still seated, whispered, "Please, just listen to him." Khalid nodded subtly, voice carrying to all who could hear, "You are not powerless. Do not mistake fear for control. Today, you can change the story of your life by choosing courage over violence." The city unknowingly held its breath. Every camera, every phone, every witness had frozen the moment into history. Khalid's presence had shifted the balance. The weapon no longer dictated the narrative, principle and moral authority did. The gunman's finger trembled. For a long heartbeat, time seemed suspended, and then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, he lowered the weapon. The alley exhaled, tension breaking like a held note finally released. The gun clattered to the pavement. The masked assailant stumbled back, eyes wide, as the weight of what he had just done, and what he hadn't done, sank in. Around the alley, bystanders whispered, some cheering quietly, some still recording every second. The city was unknowingly witnessing a moment that would ripple far beyond this small street. Khalid Al-Rahman stepped forward with deliberate calm. He kept his gaze on the gunman, every movement measured, every step communicating authority without aggression. "Stay where you are," he said quietly. "No one else will be hurt, but you must understand that your actions have consequences." Marcus Halton, still pale, but steadying himself, stood and exhaled slowly. "Thank you," he whispered, relief heavy in his voice. "I thought—" Khalid nodded toward him. "It's over. You are safe. But the story doesn't end here. The world has seen what happened, and everyone will know." The gunman's hands trembled. I didn't mean—" "You meant to instill fear," Khalid interrupted, calm yet piercing. "But fear is temporary. Accountability is permanent, and history will remember your choice today." Nearby, journalists who had caught wind of the standoff were now pressing forward. Smartphones captured Khalid's measured intervention, the world silently streaming the unfolding lesson. Wealth and influence were being wielded not to dominate, but to protect and to uphold justice. Khalid pulled out his phone and began recording a live statement. His voice, calm and deliberate, addressed not just the crowd, but an invisible audience that stretched far beyond the alley. "The world witnessed an act of violence today," Khalid said, looking into the lens, gaze steady. "A man with a weapon thought he could assert control through fear. But fear does not define authority, principle does. Courage does. And moral accountability is the standard by which all actions should be judged." Marcus nodded beside him, watching Khalid speak with quiet awe. You just made the entire world watch," he murmured. "Yes," Khalid replied softly. "Visibility ensures consequence. Power without conscience is dangerous. Today, we reminded everyone the powerful are not exempt from justice, and the powerless must always have a witness." The gunman was restrained by approaching officers, his expression a mixture of fear and disbelief. Cameras flashed, phones recorded, and the city unknowingly held its collective breath as Khalid's words spread across digital feeds, social media, and news reports within moments. Khalid's gaze swept the alley, lingering on the faces of onlookers. "Remember this moment," he said. "History is shaped by those who act, not by those who watch in silence." Today, courage and principle prevailed over fear. Marcus placed a hand on Khalid's shoulder. "You didn't just save me. You reminded the city of something larger, something vital." Khalid nodded, voice steady and low. "The world often forgets. We remind it. That is all." The sun reflected off the buildings, highlighting the quiet authority of a man who had turned a moment of terror into a public lesson in justice, accountability, and the power of moral courage. By late afternoon, police and federal agents had secured the alley. The gunman, now handcuffed, was led toward a squad car. Cameras flashed, journalists murmured, and onlookers whispered, replaying every moment on their phones. Every second of the standoff had become evidence not just of danger, but of moral courage and decisive intervention. Khalid Al-Rahman remained composed, navy suit immaculate, voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. He spoke directly to the officers, journalists, and bystanders alike. This incident is no longer just a personal story. It is a lesson in accountability. The law must be enforced, and actions, no matter how bold or reckless, must have consequences. An FBI agent approached Marcus Halton. "Director, the suspect is in custody. We'll process him immediately." Marcus exhaled, relief washing over him. "Thanks to him," he said quietly, glancing at Khalid. I can't believe someone acted so decisively." Khalid shook his head slightly, expression measured. "I did not act alone. I acted because someone needed to witness injustice, and because every life matters. Fear has no place in a city that values law, principle, and accountability." Nearby, reporters prepared cameras and microphones. One asked, "Mr. Al-Rahman, how did you stay so calm in the standoff?" Khalid's voice carried over the crowd, firm but not theatrical. "Calm comes from knowing the right action is clear. Authority without morality is empty. True power is measured not by intimidation, but by protection." Today, that principle guided every step. He held up his tablet, showing the live recording of the standoff. "Let this be a lesson. Actions have consequences. Visibility ensures accountability, and courage is contagious. The world has watched, and the lesson will not be forgotten." Marcus stepped beside him, admiration clear. "You turned a moment of danger into a lesson for everyone, law enforcement, civilians, even those tempted to misuse power." Khalid nodded. "The city must remember that fear is temporary. Accountability is permanent. The actions of one man can inspire change, but only if the principle is visible and undeniable." As the suspect was loaded into a police vehicle, the murmurs of the crowd became applause and murmured approval. Phones continued to record, broadcast live feeds, and amplify the story far beyond the alley. The lesson was no longer confined to a single street. It had become a public reminder that courage, visibility, and moral authority define true power. Khalid looked out over the city skyline. The sun reflected off the buildings, casting long shadows that stretched across streets, plazas, and avenues, a symbolic reminder that justice, when exercised with principle and visibility, reaches far and wide. "Remember this," he said softly to Marcus. "We cannot always prevent danger, but we can ensure that principle prevails." Today, the world watched, and the powerful were reminded that no one stands above accountability. The city moved again, traffic flowing, pedestrians continuing their routines, but the lesson remained etched in every recording, every witness, and every mind that had paused to watch. By early evening, the story of the alley standoff had spread across social media, news outlets, and international broadcasts. Every clip, every live feed, every recording carried the same undeniable truth. The FBI director had been held at gunpoint, and one man, Khalid Al-Rahman, had ensured the situation ended without bloodshed while delivering a lesson in principle. Khalid stood at the edge of the plaza, his navy suit crisp, sunglasses reflecting the fading sunlight. Phones and cameras captured his every move, but he remained focused not on fame, but on the consequences of the event. Daniel, his assistant, approached with a tablet. "Sir, the footage has gone viral. Millions have already viewed it. Influencers and news channels are praising the way you handled it. The world is watching." Khalid nodded, expression measured. "Good, but this isn't about praise. It's about accountability, visibility, and the precedent we set. Fear cannot be allowed to define authority. Principle must." Nearby, Marcus Halton shook his head in disbelief. "I never imagined someone could intervene like that, not just to save me, but to turn it into a lesson for everyone." Khalid's eyes scanned the city, noting the cameras, the reporters, the crowd. History is recorded by those who act with courage. Today, the lesson is clear. Power without conscience is dangerous, and the world must see what courage and morality look like in action. Back at the police station, officers processed the gunman while news crews replayed every moment. Analysts discussed the rare instance of a private citizen, a billionaire, stepping into a high-stakes situation to enforce moral and practical accountability. Headlines formed rapidly. Billionaire saves FBI Director, a lesson in power and principle. Global eyes witness courage in D.C. Standoff. Wealth meets moral authority. How Khalid Al-Rahman turned fear into accountability. Khalid, watching from a nearby terrace, spoke softly to Daniel. The lesson must be visible, undeniable. Courage is only contagious when it is witnessed, and principle only matters when it is upheld publicly. Marcus approached him again. You didn't just save me. You reminded the world that justice, accountability, and moral authority matter more than fear. Khalid's gaze remained fixed on the city skyline. Influence is meaningless without conscience. Wealth is empty without principle. Visibility ensures that those who wield power are reminded, in private and in public, that every action carries responsibility. The crowd in the plaza and those watching worldwide felt the impact. Fear had been replaced by moral clarity. The lesson was no longer confined to the alleyway. It had rippled across the globe, reaching anyone who witnessed, shared, or reflected on it. The sun dipped lower, casting golden light over the buildings, and Khalid's presence, calm, authoritative, resolute, symbolized the rare intersection of influence, principle, and courage. This was more than a standoff. It was a message. The powerful are accountable, the fearful are guided, and the world, when watched carefully, remembers every act of courage. By twilight, the city's normal rhythm had returned, but the story of the standoff lingered in minds, screens, and news feeds worldwide. Social media continued to buzz with clips, commentary, and analysis, every replay reinforcing the same truth. Moral courage can shape the course of events, even when lives are on the line. Khalid Al-Rahman stood atop a terrace overlooking the plaza, navy suit crisp, posture impeccable. Beside him, Marcus Halton adjusted his tie, still absorbing the reality that he had been spared not just by luck, but by decisive, principled action. You didn't just save me, Marcus said quietly. You reminded everyone that authority isn't about fear, it's about responsibility. Khalid nodded, voice calm but resonant. True power is defined by restraint, integrity, and the defense of those who cannot defend themselves. Today, the world watched and learned that principle is stronger than intimidation. News crews continued broadcasting live, analysts discussing the rare intersection of private influence and public accountability. Headlines spread globally. Arabbillionaire turns standoff into lesson in courage and justice. When wealth meets principle, Khalid Al-Rahman saves FBI Director. The gunman, now in custody, would face full legal repercussions. His actions had been public, undeniable, and the moral weight of the event amplified by the witness of millions. Justice, both formal and symbolic, was being served. Khalid turned back to Marcus. Remember this, Director. Fear is temporary, but principle endures. Influence matters little without conscience, and power is only valuable when it protects those who cannot protect themselves. Marcus exhaled, nodding slowly. The world needed to see that, and now they have. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, golden light spilled across the city, illuminating the streets, the alleys, and the cameras that had captured every moment. Khalid's calm presence had turned a moment of terror into a lesson in moral courage, accountability, and the visible exercise of power. The city moved again, but the story, the lesson, and the reminder of principle would linger far longer than any day's chaos. Power, when wielded without conscience, breeds fear and chaos. Wealth and influence are meaningless if they fail to protect the vulnerable, enforce justice, and uphold principle. Today, a man with a gun challenged authority, but it was courage, moral clarity, and decisive action that defined the outcome. Khalid Al-Rahman's intervention reminds us that true strength is measured not by dominance, but by protection, not by intimidation, but by restraint, and not by visibility alone, but by principle made undeniable. The world watched, and in watching learned a timeless lesson. Accountability is universal. Courage is contagious, and moral authority, exercised publicly and responsibly, can shape the course of history. Fear is fleeting, but integrity endures. Influence is temporary, but justice is eternal. And when the world witnesses the right action, it remembers forever.